And welcome back to the Bunch of Punts Betting Podcast, your specialist show for football long shot bets. We've been absent for about 12 years. We're going to get back to punting, ridiculous punting, with an episode of Non-League Nerds. Joining me, as ever, Matthew O'Regan and Scott Redfearn. I think we're going to be running through the National League North, South, Southern Central, Isthmian, maybe talking all outrights. And our general disappointment at some of the prices. The bookies are pretty bottleless these days, but we've got a few prices to share, so we'll just get straight into it. Right, starting off at the top of the shop, National League. Carlisle 5-2 favourites. Matthew, are you having that?
I wouldn't be having them at that price, but me and Scott were both of the opinion. Carlisle came third last year, 95 points. Pretty freak season. Most seasons would have been enough to sort of win the league. Modern day, maybe not, but yeah, they haven't really lost much. They didn't really need to add much, but in terms of their signings they have added, doesn't blow me away. I don't think it suggests they'll move to the next step. Rob Elliott, I don't know if he can handle it at Carlisle. So yeah, a few question marks over Carlisle, who will be up there, but yeah, they're not the team I think will win it, and I wouldn't be backing them at 5-2 certainly.
Would you be backing?
Well, I think we are in agreement on Boreham Wood at 6-1.
Yep. Do you in the same boat then, Scott? Boreham Wood, the bet for the title in the National League.
Yeah, I think definitely in terms of price. I thought they'd be a little bit shorter. I think there's this whole thing about will they keep the players? The owner, very adamant, sort of at the very beginning of pre-season, sort of said no one's going, everyone's staying. As we're recording this, Abdul Malik, it's £1 million now, the offer from Sweden, and it wouldn't surprise me if he's still there come the start of the season. But I think, Boreham would have got a lot going for them. The players they wanted to get rid of have now all gone. So Junior Dixon, Aaron Henry, Luke Norris. And, Danny Cashman's obviously just signed. Matt will be happy with that one. And there's scope to bring in a couple more, but they've got this team from last year. They signed well in January. Everything just looks good for me with Boreham Wood. The owner, the manager, the squad, I think it's a great price. And yeah, I think it's not the most sort of uncommon of picks, but I just think it's a very solid pick. I just would say with Carlisle, I think, you could maybe argue that Mark Hughes should have been given another go at it. Like say, if you get 90 odd points in a 46 game season and you've not gone up, you've been a little bit unlucky somewhere. I know that Carlisle fans weren't too happy with his style of football, and it does probably put a little bit of pressure on Elliott coming in. It's going to be a completely different style, pass and move, possession based, keep the ball. Looks great in the summer, gets tough in the winter. So, yeah, I would be backing Boreham Wood.
That's why I think that the whole sort of transitional is why I'm keen on Boreham Wood, because they've sort of got promoted under Garrard in the National South. I would admit I was very sceptical of them, because when I saw them in the National South against Worthing, I was like, these are shit. And then they went up, won the playoffs, and I was like, they're going to get eaten alive in the National League. And Garrard just completely changed the style. When possession football, he's got Matt Rush, one of the best strikers in the league. Abdul Malik, probably arguably the best player in the league. And Zach Brunt, who I'd put up there as well. Obviously, really good pedigree of Sheffield United. And then at Barnet, yeah, brilliant player. They've got added Cashman, who I think is obviously Worthing bars, but brilliant player. And injuries have sort of held him back. But with the depth Boreham Wood having up front, there's not as much pressure on him, so he can sort of do his thing. They've sort of, fullback wasn't a weak area for them. I wouldn't say weak, but it's probably the place they could improve the most. And they've added Bainbridge, who was unbelievable at South Shields last season, and Golden from Altrincham. So they've sort of upgraded the key areas. And it's just a continuity factor. They've gone quality over quantity for the signings. Not much bedding in needed, and they can just sort of continue the momentum they left off last season. They were sort of a few seconds away from winning the playoff final against a very good Rochdale side, and only lost on penalties. So yeah, I don't see how Boreham Wood won't progress, and I think Carlisle will regress a bit. So hopefully Boreham Wood can catch them on the way out.
I think, yeah, just with the fullbacks as well, with that as well, Matt, is they had King, didn't they, on loan for the first half of the season from York.
Yeah.
He did really, really well for them. So York actually recalled him. So then they just slot Cameron Cox in at fullback. And, quite late on, it might have been around March time, they'd already reacted and then brought sort of James Clark in from Solihull, who's sort of be still reliable for being a right back in the National League, a very good right back for that level. And yeah, that's what I like about Boreham Wood. It's
very reactive, aren't they? Rather than
that's
teams will
exactly
wait.
that.
Teams will wait too long. Whereas Boreham Wood, the minute they know they need that, if they start slow or get a couple injuries, they'll be straight in the market, and that's why I like them.
This space now as well. This space, like I say, with Dixon, Henry, and Norris moving on. I know Cashman's come in. There's definitely room for maybe 3 or 4 to come in on loan and plug some gaps if needed. But I think they're sort of starting 11. Maybe with the exception of centre mid, it kind of picks itself currently. Yeah, again, that's what I like about them.
So, Boreham Wood for the title. Scott, you're having 2 points on the nose. Matthew, 1.5 points. And I suppose it's a good time to talk about the general standard of the National League. Obviously, Carlisle heavy favourites. York, Rochdale departing last season. What would you say? Where's it at? Because you look at the last few seasons, the division in general has lost some really big hitters, and they don't tend to come down anymore, do they? They just march further and further up the EFL. So, where would you say, Matthew, this like current crop of teams ahead of the new season and the general standard of the 5th tier ranks to in terms of against like the last couple of seasons? Because I just first impressions from me. Obviously, I don't know as much as you two, but it just doesn't strike me as a good as it has been in recent seasons.
Yeah, so they're sort of it's the big sort of hitters are slowly being weeded out, like Stockport, Wrexham, Notts County, Chesterfield, Rochdale. To an extent, York, like big spenders. There's more and more sort of. You've only really got Carlisle, Scunthorpe, Southend, Hartlepool would probably be the 4 top of my head, unless I'm missing anyone. Big ones that will be expecting to sort of be in the EFL and out. And Scunthorpe don't look too appealing this year. Hartlepool have invested loads. Southend is a whole new transitional season for them, sort of gone a whole new direction. So Carlisle, a lot of the pressure is on Carlisle, and I think we'll touch on it later as well, but teams like Tamworth will come up, Worthing, Fylde, all of them small, sort of traditional smaller teams that fancy their chance of getting out of the league. So it's whilst I think there's less big hitters and the quality, I wouldn't say quality's gone down, I think the quality's become so good that it's all sort of diluted. It's become a very even league. The way I have it, the top 4 will sort of be like, not run away with it, but pull away. 5th will be Southend, and then 6th to 14th for me could be anyone's game. And I think that makes it a really, really interesting dynamic this year.
Yeah, so Scott, in terms of betting markets, what's the best way to approach it, assuming you think the same as Matthew and going from Southend down, it could be anyone's season?
I think when you look at the top 7 prices in the National League, they're absolutely awful. I think if you compare them to League 2, where it's still a top 7, and just compare the prices. When you look at the likes of Barrow, Harrogate, who have come down, Forest Green, Southend, Hartlepool, Boreham Wood, and Carlisle, even Scunthorpe in there, they're all very, very short. I think one of the reasons is for this is because of last season, because the top 7 ran away with it. You had your big 5, and then Boreham Wood and Scunthorpe, who had been promoted, got into that pack. And with the exception of maybe Southend, but they always had games in hand. They had home games in hand. They were never a good price sort of towards the end of the season to back for top 7. They were always heavily odds on like 10, 11, 12 to 1 odd. I think the way it's been priced up, they're assuming something similar. I think if you go back to the 24-25 season, it went to the last game for top 7 to be, sorted. Tamworth weren't a million miles off. They only finished 4 points off the top 7 in the 24-25 season. So if the season's going to be more like the 24-25 and not like last season, and there is a couple of spaces there for teams to get into, this is where the value actually is. Because the top 8 are very, very short, but then it does open up. Like Matt's just said, you've got your Worthings, you've got your Fylde, Bostons, Tamworths, all very nice prices for top 7. It's just, can you maybe get the one who could potentially put themselves in the pack? Because that's what I'd be looking at.
Yeah, and Who would you be looking at? The floor's open. I've got to admit the Worthing price at 7's giving Hinshelwood is there immediately stood out, because I think as much as squad and stability in terms of ownership's like a real edge down here in non-league, like an owner of Hinshelwood's quality who's clearly should not have dropped down a division to Worthing, I think that's got to count for something. 7-1 looks big about them.
Yeah, and it's not just him dropping down. It's his third spell at the club now, where sort of he's sort of helped them grow through the ranks. And I mentioned it at Boreham Wood, and it's sort of, I've been guilty of it in the past. And it's sort of a betting thing I've sort of learnt on, sort of in the EFL when I got stung on Rotherham a few years back, just because a team's gone and got all these new flashy signings and spunk loads of money at it early doesn't mean they're going to do well. And I think what is often overlooked, and I used to all the time, is continuity. And whilst Worthing have signed 11 new players, it's sort of plugging gaps. They've only really lost Spong. He'll surprise. He was under release on the retained list. I reckon he got offered a new contract and going to better team. And then obviously vice captain Beer's gone. But they've had 11 players, but a lot of these are just sort of plugging gaps. And they've signed Corey Jetty Brew on loan from QPR at left back, who, of what I've seen him in pre-season and what QPR fans have said, brilliant. They signed Jaden Moore on loan. Again, in pre-season, I've been very impressed by him. 6'4", composed defender, had 5 or 6 games on loan at Eastleigh last season, and they loved him. But he'll be back up. Obviously, they've basically kept the same back four bar left back, improved on the goalkeeper situation. Midfield, they've kept a lot of the big hitters as well, Packham and Jenks. They've added Hussein from Southend, who's a brilliant player when fit. Wadham and Aguiar, new signings, but Aguiar came through the youth academy here, played under Hinshelwood. Wadham had 2 loan spells already, so it's, again, the continuity. And then up front, Ramel Carter, he's only on loan till January, which sort of indicates that Hull are going to recall him and send him, because he's been linked with Swindon and Newport all summer, so sort of Worthing getting him to real coup, I think. And what, again, he scored in the pre-season game I went to watch. They've managed to prize away Hutchinson from Wildstone, reject a new contract. I know Wildstone aren't the most appealing team, but to prize away another national team league's best player probably is signed Nathaniel George, who's again played under Hinshelwood. And last season, Worthing had 4 players who hit the double-digit marks for goals in Dollahan, Mikowski, Coleman de Graft and Jenks. You've got Cook, scored about 7 from centre-back. Colburn scored about 7 from right-back. Plus you've added Carter, Nathaniel George, Hutchinson, all going to chip in with goals. So there's goals there. The DNA of the club, sort of a club on the up. The attendances last year were brilliant. Sold out a few games. We're getting very big crowds. Chairman's a Worthing fan. The infrastructure's really good. And I think they've got all the qualities to upset a lot of teams. It's an Astro pitch. They play really good football. And I think Worthing will be fearless, which could be naive in some games, but I think they will cause a few shocks by Hinshelwood's DNA is just attack teams. No team is too good for Worthing. So first game of the season's away at Carlisle. A lot of teams would sit back and sort of try fluke a result. Worthing will go there and try to play them off the park, and Hinshelwood believes they can beat any team in the park in the league. So I think, so I'm obviously biased being a regular watcher of Worthing, but I do really, really fancy Worthing to give it a good go this year.
Astro pitch as well. What an edge.
It's a brilliant pitch as well, yeah.
Yeah, especially playing the way they play. Scott, any other ones worth flagging? I know you're not backing putting any points behind them, but I'm sure there's another couple of teams further down the list in terms of top 7 prices that are worth flagging for the listener.
Yeah, I think Tamworth could be one. They've recently been taken over a few weeks ago. I know the manager there is obviously very well liked. He's now actually gone full time as well. In order for Tamworth to sort of grow as a club, a lot of signings, and the downside, I guess, would be Peaks has always been that sort of underdog and punching above his weight. Now there's a little bit of money there. Is there going to be some expectation? Is there a little bit of pressure on? Or has he done enough over the last few years to sort of buy himself a good 12 to 18 months in order to take Tamworth forward? But these were, it's a club that finished in the top half the last 2 seasons running under his leadership. Now they've actually got a bit of a budget, some money, maybe brought in a player of a higher calibre. Maybe see them going a little bit better. And I think Boston don't look a bad price as well for top 7. So when Hurst has come in, they had top 6 form second half of last season. So if you look back at the form table for the last sort of 15, 20 games, they would have made the top 7 based on their points return. You might have had, maybe your Forest Greens, your Scunthorpes, maybe taking a bit of a step back because playoffs looked safe, but they knew they weren't going to go automatically up. At the same time, Boston, they were still picking up some points. Yet again, maybe the downside is Coughlin had a similar sort of run at Boston the previous season, sort of finished the season quite well when they were sort of potentially getting dragged into a relegation battle. But yet again, Boston, I know they've lost Maguire, but it's a few decent players who've signed. George Ward from Buxton will look to make the step up. Lewis Shipley coming from Barrow, surprised that they got him over the line. They had Rooney and Grimes on loan last season, who played a big part in them on, going on that good run. They've both sort of signed. Conor McBride, I don't mind. They're on a couple of Sheffield United lads as well on loan, Jimmy. So that's Sashdev, who I know is quite highly thought of. A bit like Sariki, went on loan, around sort of 19, 20, 21 in the lower leagues in order to sort of get first team experience. So I think Maguire will be a loss. Curson scored a few goals for them last season when he joined sort of halfway through the season. I like the manager. Can they just, sort of go on that, pick up the form that they were sort of on back end of last season? Because if they can, yet again, it's a big price. And you're not asking them to go and sort of challenge the top 3, top 4, top 5. What you're asking them to do is just be on the cusp, be in that top half, and, then anything's possible. I don't think we'll see a top 7 running away with it this season. I'm not a fan of Harrogate. I'm not a fan of Barrow. I think they're way, way too short. So I do think there's an opportunity for a couple of clubs to maybe go and join the big hitters, the favourites. So whereas you've got, your Carlisle, your Boreham Wood, your Hartlepool, your Southend and your Forest Green, I think that's going to be many people's sort of top 5 or would put them 5 in the top 7. I do think there's a couple of places up there for grabs. And, it's not guaranteed that Southend, even Hartlepool, will make the top 7. There's still a lot of questions there to be asked. I would definitely be looking at some of these chasing, teams and looking at the prices.
So I was going to say on that point, in my top 5, Hartlepool were one of the teams I said before that I can see running away with it. But then obviously I don't know how Lee Clark's going to do. It's a whole new squad. Southend got a whole new squad and sort of a whole new direction. Even Forest Green, I think, are really strong, but the scattergun approach, I think Savage was averaging, since he's come in, I saw a stat like averaging a signing every 2 weeks or something. Like, I don't rate Savage as a manager, really. The only reason I've got Forest Green doing well is I think Vince will get rid of him early doors. But the only teams that I see proper stable that should give it a shot are Boreham Wood and Carlisle. I think them two will be the runaway top 2 this year, as York and Rochdale were, Barnet and York before. Yeah, as I said, Forest Green, Hartlepool and Southend, I think will make up 3rd, 4th and 5th. But there's question marks about all of them. And as you said, I was keen on Boston and Tamworth. Yeah, it's perfect time. Like, we're both very keen on Yeovil as well. It's perfect time for a lot of these clubs to sort of throw their hat in the ring and sort of cause a few surprises. And yeah, it's going to be a very, very interesting league, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I was just looking top 3, Boreham Wood 6-4 as well. That could be a good one for cross-season multis. Yeah.
I've absolutely smashed that in my group life. I'm surprised it's still 6-4. I am really surprised.
Yeah, I think it's a stupid price.
Absolutely smashed that.
Lovely stuff. Worth pointing out, I'm just on 365 website saying the book closes for a lot of these markets on the 8th of August, 12 o'clock. So that'll be when the season kicks off. I'm not sure, fellas, are these sort of top 3, top 7, do they reappear during the season, or is that it done once the season kicks off?
365 will have them all year round.
Perfect. Well,
knowing them this year, they might bottle it and not let you. Genuinely, they've been so. They've had no bottle recently, Bedford side. It would not surprise me if they did shut it off. But no, they should have it all season.
Well, yeah, just something to be wary of then. They've got book closes 8th of August, 12 p.m. to win outright to be promoted top 3 and top 7 at the minute. And they haven't got that on EFL markets, so it might be something different for this season. And no mention of top goal scorer. It's just appeared as we're about to record, didn't it, about 12:30. Tuesday, the 4th of August, as we're recording. There's no each way terms on the players there yet either, so we're avoiding it. The market's really young and volatile, so we don't want to ruin any prices or take anyone's edges just yet. Where are we going next? National League North. Let's have a look at the market. South Shield's 4-1 favourites. Morecambe a point bigger in the outright. Each way terms in the division. Quarter odds 1 to 3 places. Matthew, anyone taking your fancy or worth talking about in this division?
Yeah, it's a difficult one as well. I thought Hednesford would my pick after their summer business. I think they will win the league, but there's question marks. I'm not the biggest fan of Kelvin Davis, manager. I don't like the price. I wouldn't take them at that price, but I do think because I just can't. Because in the National South, there's 4 teams that look really strong that you can make a case for. There's not many teams you can make a case for in the North. South Shields are good, but obviously lost Watson. How's Williamson going to do? You never know. Morecambe looked really strong manager, but I just can't shake off the feeling more was going to happen off the pitch. I don't know. Chester could be an outside shout. I don't really have a strong opinion on the North. I do like Oxford City's business. They've gone they're full time. They were really good towards the end of last season. They've signed Tyrone Marsh from Bedford, who scored a lot of goals despite them struggling. They've got Matty Taylor up front as well with him. They signed Pollock. This is all top of my head. I'll write it down, so I could get some of these wrong. But yeah, signed Pollock from Brackley, the very strong midfield at this level. They've done really well, but again, they're one of the teams I noted down because I thought they'd be bigger. But again, I'm not touching them at 26-1. There's too many question marks with travel logistics. Like obviously being so far south, the travel just takes that out of a lot of teams. So yeah, I don't have a strong opinion on the North. I think Hednesford win it, but again, I wouldn't touch that price.
Yeah, it's shortened in a lot. It's probably the most widespread North in history, and that's going to have a massive bearing, particularly on those part-time clubs, although they are getting fewer and fewer. One price that stood out to me, Scott, was Worksop at 40s, second longest team in the outright, and it was just basically a glance at their team. They come up with a bit of cash. There's probably signed a team too good for the level below, so I don't know if I've just put too much stock in that, but the likes of Starchenko, Liam Waldock, player I watched a lot of Alfred and had a shot at a jump up in the National League, I believe. Didn't quite work out for him, but he's a player of real good calibre. The same said about Ollie Greaves. Scored a load of goals a few seasons ago. Where was it? At Mickleover, I think. He's a good player, and then the other one is Lewis Whittamer, a striker.
Didn't they sign
it's a
Cian
decent
Harrett as well?
Yeah, Matt, yeah.
Yeah, he's a bit
Harrett as well.
He's a wrong enough the pitch, but he's way too good for National North. Like if he thought it's his attitude,
exactly that. Yeah. He was the one when they signed him recently. I'm like, I don't mind that because, like I say, if you get him on the pitch, he's too good for that level. Simple as. But like perfectly thought he's a wrong and off the pitch.
Keep him away from hairs and chairs, and he should be all right.
Yeah, no swimming pools. But yeah, I think I wouldn't have them personally. I wouldn't have them down in the bottom 4. I think mid-table they'll be looking to kick on. I think people seem to think Worksop have still got a lot of their aging players. They have got 1 or 2, don't get me wrong, but they did move quite a few on throughout the season, and a lot of them have sort of dropped back down into the sort of Northern Premier, people like Liam Hughes, etc. So I do think they're going through a bit of a squad reshape, and I think, like you've just mentioned some of the players there, Jimmy, I do think they're a little bit underrated. I do think it's one of them where it's the size of the club. They're a club that got promoted 12 months ago, and they're not expected to kick on. But I would have them. I'd have them sort of mid-table, me personally, Worksop. I don't think they look too bad on paper.
Yep. Anywhere offering top half finish in the North?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I will just say with the North, I know with the 4 teams they've kind of got made as the favourites. Morecambe, I think, like Matt says, it could be off the pitch issues. And do you know what? They've lost. It's a brand new squad. They've lost Aziz, they've lost Nolan, they've lost Payne. So they've already lost. Edwards as well has joined Exeter, which I thought was a bit of an odd one. So they've already released most of the squad. They've lost 4 players they wanted to keep. It's a brand new team, but it just feels like he can play left back. He's okay. We'll sign him. He can play right back. He's okay. We can sign him. So I'm not sure how that team's going to gel. And that would be my only criticism for Hednesford, as well as the manager, is I'm not sure if they're signing a team. I think they might be signing individuals. They were 12s on Bet Victor. That's, kind of long gone. I think South Shield under Williamson are probably the most likely to have a continuation, just because they're going to go and play the same football. They've lost Jenkins, big blow. They've lost Bainbridge, big blow. But they still have got Scott and Blackett, who will score goals. Adam Campbell joined as well, hasn't he? He's dropped down from the National League. So, yes, I fully expect them when the weather's nice, start of summer, or coming towards the end of summer, but playing that really attractive football. And I do think they'll be very much up there. Macclesfield would be the other. Is there a little bit of continuation there? Signed a few of the ex-Fylde players who, failed, obviously didn't offer new contracts to with them stepping up. Got a bit of the money from the cup run last season. But yet again, before that cup run, there were just murmurs that the finances weren't quite as strong there as what they've let on. They've obviously sold players mainly to Forest Green in the past, but they've had a good pre-season, Macclesfield. I know you take all your pre-season with a pinch of salt, but they wouldn't surprise me if they got off to a decent start under Rooney. He grew into the season last season with them. So they would be one, I think, just to keep your eye on. But listen, they're the top four. They're the four favourites. And I don't think there's any price there worth having a go at right now, being honest. Wait and see.
Yeah. And it's a good time to say, innit, Scott? Like we was talking before we recorded about the general disappointment at the bookies' prices this season. It feels last season I came to the realization that having made a back to load of bets this time of year, that this season I just wasn't going to do it. It's not worth it. And you've got a way better, a more interesting approach to the outrights, and that's actually taking them in season. Is that something that's been successful for you the past couple of years or so?
Yeah, do you know what? Being honest, last year weren't my best year. Still profitable, but I still like to get stuff on early doors because you do get some of the value what quickly does disappear, especially around the European leagues. But that's playing the Accas quite a bit. But there's always a mistake throughout the season. People don't follow them. The bookies are quite slow to react. As soon as you have a manager change, as soon as a striker or someone gets injured, there's always an opportunity. And then things aren't priced in straight away. Or then things aren't priced in there and then. So, yeah, listen, always an opportunity, always big prices. Funny enough, we're talking about non-league here. Worthing were 50-1 when Hinchelwood went there last season when he came in. So they were 50s. I actually messaged you, Matt. I don't know if you can remember.
Yeah,
and we're just
holidays,
Worthing 50s, and we had a bit of a laugh and a joke about it. And then they won, I don't know, the next games or whatever. And that
the 111 from 12
disappeared. Yeah, and that's a perfect example.
Yeah, it's because season. It's why I was surprised Sutton took Agata, because Worthing was 16th, and I went to Dagenham away where Worthing won 5-2, and that was a good performance. Well, it was mainly Dagenham being shit, but there was nothing to suggest Worthing were going to do anything. They had the squad for it. That's why again I'm strong on Worthing this year because of going from 16th in October to winning the league. I think if Hinchelwood was there all season, they would have blown the league apart.
Yeah,
that's just yeah. As Scott said, 50-1 when Hinchelwood came in. I think so. Always opportunities to be had.
Did any of you have them at 50s?
No, because I weren't very clued up on the South anyway, but it always looks like there's more bigger teams in the South than the North, if that makes sense.
Makes total sense,
A lot of money gets chucked around in the South, even now with your Dagenhams and your Chelmsfords, etc., your Dorkins, and you just looked at all the teams above them and thought, God, they're going to have to go on some run. And they did, being fair. They did go on a run. Then they seemed to bottle it a little bit. They did drift out to double digits. I do remember them drifting back out around 20s. Around 20s at one bit,
Yeah.
When there was one particular point.
Yeah. 111 from 12 from October till around New Year's, Christmas. And then for Christmas, there was a big slump. I remember I was at a few of the games, it was shit. And then picked up again. And then and then it seemed out of the question, and then Worthing won. It's sort of reverse what happened the year before, because the year before when Worthing were looking like going to win the league and they sort of bottled it, they didn't win any of their, because there's that Good Friday, there's a Friday Monday games
Easter in it.
Really towards the end of the season, and Dorking lost both and Worthing won both, and Worthing beat Dorking on the Monday to go top, and that sort of from there Dorking plummeted and Worthing kept going. But there's hopefully plenty more opportunities like that in play. But Worthing were miles off it, and at some point I remember I was in Albania at the time, so I wasn't really betting at the time, so I was like, I have the week off.
Were you there on business?
Strictly on business, Jim.
No, but definitely something we're going to look to do next season. Long range tips, perhaps something we could look at doing on a Sunday, maybe, if that's an appropriate time. outright tips
Yeah.
in the season. See, I'm just going to be honest. It's the way I'm approaching it. Apart from goal scorers, I haven't had a penny on outright picks. Another thing that brings me great trepidation is the fact that the fucking transfer window doesn't shut until the season's kicked off. So, just too much things to consider. But
It's
anyway,
worth pointing out as well with that, Jimmy. Don Ballard missed the first 5-6 games of the season last season because he wasn't even at Leyton Orient. So because like the transfer window, so he wasn't even at Leyton Orient for the first 5 or 6 games. So when people are betting right now, ready for the season to kick off, might say they might not even be the winner, might not even be in the league yet. So it's always a tough one to judge.
Yep. Shall we have a look at South? Is there anything worth flagging in the National League South in the other half of Step 2, or shall we dip into Step 3?
Well, I've got, as I said, there's 4 that they've there's a few that is very tight, but I'm playing cards close to my chest for South because I don't want to spoil it all, because magazine's out tomorrow, first part.
What magazine?
My pre-season magazine, previewing every team in England down to most Step 3 teams as well. So yeah,
What's it called?
I haven't named it yet, to be fair. I'm meeting probably the bunch of Punt magazine.
And how do I get it? Is it available to buy?
Yes.
Pre-order?
£14.99, and then you get access to some outrights as well during the season. But yeah, I've spent like the whole summer basically writing it, being a graph. So I don't want to reveal all my picks just yet until that is live.
That's a great deal. What leagues does it cover? Does it cover every team?
Prem, Champ, League 1, League 2, National League, National South, National North, every team, and then about 10 teams in each league at Step 3.
Excellent. And the links are on your Twitter, aren't they, if you want to pre-order it?
Yep, it's easy. Apple Pay, anything. Sort of click the link. It's done in 5 seconds.
Cash in hand if you got it, though. Cash in hand.
Cash in hand. I'll send my address on Twitter after this.
So yeah, the South, there's four big dogs. Keep your cards close to your chest. There's one more bet you want to share though, unless there's something you want to talk about in the South, or are you saving that?
I've got a pick for the Isthmian, yeah, but not.
Yeah, no. We'll drop down to Step 3. If you want to know about the South, you'll have to buy the magazine, unfortunately. But there's a bet in the Isthmian, isn't there, that you were shocked at. Before we started recording, you said you was literally shocked at the price.
Yeah, like there was 2. One of them's dropped massively, and again, I won't reveal that one. But with this sort of, the Northern Prem were out first, won it, and then the Central, I mean, Scott was sort of communicating when they're out, and we're like, these are very disappointing prices. And I wasn't expecting much. I wouldn't say shocked. It's just because of how bad the Central and Northern prices were, like sort of how stingy. I didn't expect some of these prices. And then like Isthmian, they had Morden and Tiptree at the shorter odds when this team opened. And Morden, Tiptree don't have the owners in jail, don't have any players. Like they just don't have a. So I was shocked at the price purely because of some of the teams. They were similar price to Cheshunt, who I think will struggle.
What? Owners are in jail.
Have you been living under a rock?
Yeah, obviously.
Search it after. It's not an appropriate
topic. That one after.
Yeah, it's not an appropriate topic to talk about on the pod. But but Dartford, because the prices were released quite late. This was released Friday, I believe, the prices, which is later than I anticipated. So I sort of had to write all of my for Step 3, I'm just doing like top 7, top 10. So I had to write all of these before the prices. I had no idea what the price was going to be. And then this is the team, I had Dartford winning the league, and they opened at 19s, I think. They shortened a bit, and then they've drifted a tiny bit out. I don't know what they are now, 15-1, maybe 16-1. But yeah, I'm very big on them. Last season was their worst finish at any level. Worst finish since 2009, ending 6th in the Isthmian Prem. They're a big club for this level, and last campaign was seen as an abject failure. Prior to their relegation the season before, their lowest finish in 8 years in the National South had been 10th. So constantly, they've been in the National League, they're constantly pushing high in the National South, and their average finish was 5th. So they're always in and amongst it, promotion in the league above. And sort of the relegation came as a shock, and I think they struggled to adapt to the Isthmian last year. Relegation and 3rd and 6th place finishes shows clear trend of regression, but I think the hierarchy are sort of looking to buck that trend, and they've got rid of Pennock, who wasn't very popular with the fans. They've got Ben, I don't know how you pronounce his surname, Ben Green, who many people know. He's won the Champions League with Inter Milan under Jose Mourinho after winning that Football Next Star as a teenager. He's come from Margate, but has also been coaching in the Dartford Academy. So it's not like it's too much transition. They have lost, that they have needed a bit of a shake up, and they would be gutted to lose, in my opinion, Step 3's best player in Ollie Box, who's gone to Ebbsfleet. Jonathan Henley's popular goalie's gone, and Edis Desan, clinical goal scorer, and right back Sam McKay has gone. But they've retained some key players like Joe Tennant, George Whitfield, Sam Odabadu, who was wanted by a lot of teams up the pyramid, but sort of a sign of Dartford's strength that they've managed to retain him. They've signed Ben Oak from Margate, who was their player of the season, obviously played under the manager. Same with Brandon David, they signed. Ryan Sanford's a brilliant goalie they've signed to replace Henley, and signed a really good wing back from Cray. They've added experience from the league above. Tom Bridge, Scott Wagstaff and Jordan Higgs both played together in midfield, and again look very shrewd for the level. I think the defence and midfield looks in very good shape regardless last season, and they've added very well. The worry was the attack after the departures of Box and Tassan, but they've worked hard to address this. Lorenzo Duncan, 21-year-old, arrives from Fisher, a few steps down, 23 goals and 10 assists, and sort of he's a player that sort of has all the transferable skills to sort of shine at this level. They signed Max Fidds from Dover, string of impressive loan spells last term. He got sent out to 3 different teams on loan last season by Dover and managed to score 17 goals, which sort of, I think, is always hard for a young player to adapt. The fact that he managed to shine at all 3 sort of shows how good a player it is. And then standout signing those, Gianluca Botti scored 21 goals in 23 starts for Wingate and Finchley, who are in this league but struggled. So getting that many goals for a crap team sort of shows how good he is. And yeah, they look in an extremely strong position to challenge at the top and push for promotion. They've got a strong budget, big fan base, and whilst Eastbourne are sort of favourites to win this league, and with the spending power and squad Eastbourne have, they should realistically win it. But I think Dartford push them all the way and get the edge. Eastbourne, as I said, minted. They nearly went up from the south a couple of years ago. But the ground's in the middle of nowhere. They don't really get many fans at the games. The owner's Moda's absolutely minted, but he's a bit of a nutcase. And I think they've got Steve King in as well, who's got a track record of doing well with teams, but he was at Macclesfield and they had financial issues, had Nesford. He similar at Whitehawk as well, nearly got Whitehawk to the National League. So he does well, but he just throws a lot of money at it. And then I think if they have a slow start, the crowds will dwindle even more. The owner might get bored and pull the plug, and I can see issues for Eastbourne. So it's sort of taking a punt on Eastbourne starting slow, because if Eastbourne start as they should, they could win it by 10 or 15. But yeah, just think Dartford at 15, 16 is too big a prize not to play. So I'm having a couple of points on them to win the league.
2-point play on that. Unfortunately, no each way terms, bottleless gets. But yeah, big play on a big price. I think we'll leave it there for non-league, unless you got anything else you want to talk about, fellas.
No, I think we sort of said the Northern's a little bit of a mess, isn't it? The Northern Prem. Just in terms of the pricing, Bury and Redcar both come up very, very short priced. And yeah, that looks an absolute nightmare league to predict that one in terms of pricing. So yeah, wouldn't even want to start getting too involved. I think you could look at one or two of the bigger prices, maybe like a Guiseley, in Ashton or someone like that to make a case. But you know, Curzon going down should be there or thereabouts. Well, yeah, the pricing's an absolute mess in the Northern.
Yeah, and then was it Southern Central as well?
We had a few, because I've been chatting with a few players that play in the Central, and and I think me and Scott were in agreement with the same. I think I don't know if we had the exact same top 5, but we pretty much did. And the players I spoke to had the same top 5. So everyone's sort of been in agreement with the 5 teams that should be challenging, and they've all been priced so like disappointed. We thought we were going to get a couple big prizes, but it didn't happen. So it's been sort of a waste of prep.
we had one, didn't we? We had one where we thought it could be 25, 33s.
Yeah, by single digits. So I don't want to reveal it yet in case somehow they do drift out and we can sort of snipe it. But they've one of our big ones we thought have been priced very short, unfortunately.
No, keep it to yourself. Keep it to yourself. And we'll be back. Bunch of punts That is, with more outrights, EFL coming up next. It'll either be this week or next week, but it will definitely be before the start of the season. I'll just quickly recap the bets. The fellas have you got 3.5 points on you between you for Boreham Wood to win the National League, and then Matthew, you got 1.5 on Worthing top 7, and then 2 points on Dartford to win the Isthmian. So yeah, that was it. First one back. Cheers, fellas. Thank you for your time. Best of luck, everyone, following the bets, and we'll be back soon with more EFL verdict and outrights. Catch you on the Flippity Flip.